back to my channel. So this is going to be my last video of 2021. Thank you guys so much for everybody who joined me this year. It's been absolutely crazy. But I thought that I would end the year on a very fun note because today I'm going to be making a dress that one of you guys suggested that I make almost a year ago now, but I've been thinking about it ever since, and I've honestly had the fabric on standby for probably 6 months now. But I'm finally getting around to it and I'm literally so freaking excited. So the dress I'm going to be recreating today is the dress that Anya Taylor-Joy wore to the Golden Globes this year, and it's the custom green Dior dress, and it is so gorgeous, and I'm obsessed with the jacket that goes over top of it. I am in love with it, and it also has this sparkly kind of look to it. So for the fabric, I was able to find this fabric at Joann's, and it is so sparkly and pretty. The only thing is it is a knit, which I didn't want, but it doesn't stretch too much, so I'm hoping it'll work really nicely. And she also had a kind of structured look in the sleeves and stuff of the jacket. So I got this fusible interfacing to go with it. But then this morning I kind of panicked and I remembered that I don't have a lining fabric for this, which is what I would be attaching the interfacing to. So I walked down to Target and I picked up these gray sheets, which I'm going to be using as the lining fabric. And I don't remember exactly, but I either got 3 or 4 yards of this fabric. I'm hoping I got 5 because I think that would be a good amount. But yeah, I thought this dress would be such a fun way to wrap up the year, and it's green, so it's kind of festive. But I've just been looking forward to this for so long, so I cannot wait to get started. Seriously, this fabric is stunning. I actually ended up only adding a lining to the bodice part of the dress and also the sleeves on the coat. And the base of the bodice lining is going to be a quarter circle with kind of a dart in the middle of it. And so here are the measurements for that. But then because the bodice is going to have so much pleating, the other bodice piece is basically going to be a half circle. And we're cutting 2 of these out for either side of the bodice. Well, usually I cut out all of my pattern pieces at one time and then start working. But this time, because I think a lot of the dress is going to be draped on the mannequin, I'm only starting with our front piece. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold either side of this big triangle together and sew down that edge. And now that the lining pieces are sewn, we're going to bring in our other bodice piece. And we're going to sew these pieces together, but the way we're going to do this is going to be a little bit funky. And I'm going to put these pieces pretty side to pretty side, and I'm going to take the front edge of our lining piece and I'm going to sew it to one edge of this circle piece. But when we reach the top corner here, instead of going all the way to the edge, I'm going to add a little notch here to the top of the green piece where these pieces meet. And then I'm going to bring the other side of the front towards the other side of the green piece and sew these sides together too. And now I'm going to sew these pieces together. And now I'm going to turn this piece right side out, and I'm going to top stitch it down either edge. And then before I take these pieces to the mannequin, I'm just going to hand stitch them together a little bit down the center. Okay, so I took the pieces that we've sewn and I just pinned all of the main points on my mannequin so that they're all holding in place. And the lining layer should be much more flat against the mannequin, and then these should really bellow out because now we're going to pleat this fabric all along these edges. So I'm going to pleat them away from the center, and I'm just going to pin these all the way across. I'm also trying to kind of crisscross my pleats at the very beginning because that's how it looks on Anya's dress. Well, I spent a good amount of time last night getting these pleats just the way I want them, and now I've already done it to this side, but I need to still do it to this side, where I'm going to lift up my fabric from the mannequin, and instead of having my pins going into the mannequin, I'm going to pin all of these pleats to the lining layer of my fabric so that we can actually get it off of the mannequin. Well, now that these are fully pinned and off of the mannequin, I am going to trust my pins and put a basting stitch all the way across the bottom edge and also tack down some of the pins at the top. Alright, well now that the bodice is all sewn and looking nice, it's time to cut out the skirt. The skirt piece is honestly probably the simplest piece to cut out because it's basically going to be a really long rectangle with a slightly smaller waist, and the front and back of the skirt are going to be exactly the same as well, so we're just going to cut 2 of these. And while I was cutting out these pieces, I also decided to cut out my strap pieces for the dress, so these are just some long scraps I cut out to use. Alright, well now we have our skirt pieces, and I'm honestly really excited about this because I've never made like a form-fitted dress before, so it should be really interesting. And right now these skirts are just a big flat piece of fabric obviously, and we need them to have a little bit more shape, so we're going to add in some darts. Before we do that though, I'm also going to take the back piece and fold it in half and cut a 9-inch slit down the back so we have room for a zipper later. And now to add in the darts, I'm going to measure 3.5 inches away from the center on both pieces, and then from there I'm going to mark out 1.5 inches. And now this is the space for our dart, so I'm going to fold the skirt over so that the 2 pins meet up, and then I'm going to create a 7-inch dart from there. And then I'm going to sew these on both the front and back skirts. And now that all of the darts are sewn, I'm going to take both skirt pieces and lay them pretty side and sew them together down their side seams. And then I also just went ahead and pinned my bodice to my skirt and sewed these pieces together. Alright, well I caved and decided that the pleats on the front were just looking a little bit too poofy and they weren't laying flat enough. So I'm actually going to just top stitch them all down, which I think will actually make it look even closer to Anya's. I just went ahead and took those long strips we cut out and folded them in half and sewed along that edge, and then turned them right side out to make them into straps. And now I'm just going to top stitch them onto the dress. And now that the straps are attached, I'm going to add an invisible zipper down the back. Okay, well this dress is actually really coming together, and now all we have left to do on it is add the hem along the bottom. Now we are finally on to working on the coat, and the first pieces I'm going to show you guys here are the sleeves, but quite honestly on all of these pieces I was running low on fabric, so I'm going to have to add these kind of strips at the bottom, but the measurement I gave you guys is the full length of the sleeve after I added the extensions. And then the coat pieces are so big that I literally could not get them in frame on my camera, so I just kind of drew out the pattern pieces I used, which I hope will be just as helpful for you guys. And so the first one we have here is the coat back piece. We're going to cut 1 of these. And then the second piece we have here is the coat front piece, and we're going to cut 2 of these. And again, it's the same deal where I kind of ran out of fabric, so the length I'm giving you guys is the total length, because I'm going to add a little panel for some extra length. And like I was mentioning, these are the strips I'm going to add at the bottom. I would have liked to make them even wider if I could, but I was really strapped for fabric at this point. Well, I really don't know if this project's even going to work out now because I honestly don't have enough fabric for it, and the nearest Joann's is 45 minutes away. So I guess I'm going to give it my best shot because these are already cut out. So I'm going to take the front and back pieces of my coat and sew them together down their side seams and shoulder seams. Next up is the sleeves. So I'm going to take my little band that I cut out first and sew it to the bottom edge of the sleeves to give this a little bit extra length. And now I'm going to fold these pieces in half and sew them together down the side. And I'm also going to do that with the sleeve lining pieces. And on the lining pieces, I've already attached my interfacing. Then once these are both sewn, I'm going to take our sleeve that has the interfacing and I'm going to put it inside of the other sleeve and pin their tops together and then put a basting stitch around them to keep them together. And now we're going to bring in the coat and I'm going to attach the sleeves to either armhole. And now I'm just going to add a hem on the sleeves to finish them up. And to save a little bit of length on the sleeves, I think the way I'm going to hem them is I'm going to bring the sparkly fabric over the lining piece and just fold it over once because this fabric doesn't unravel, so it doesn't need a double hem. Well, we are almost done with this coat, and now I'm going to work on the length problem a little bit by adding my scrap pieces all along the bottom. And I already sewed all of my scrap pieces together, so I'm just going to straight stitch this all along the bottom edge. And along the bottom of the coat, to give it a little bit more structure, I'm going to use some horsehair trim. And I'm going to lay it down and fold up this edge and stitch it all across like this. And then I'm going to stitch down the other side. And now the last thing to do on the coat is to add a hem all around the neckline. And now I'm just working on some last little finishing touches because Anya wears a belt with the dress. So I'm taking this pink one that I have and I cut out a little strip for it, sewed it in half and turned it right side out. And now I'm putting the belt inside of that and kind of stitching it in place. And then I'm taking some really thin scraps and wrapping it around the actual like belt part of it. And it actually looks surprisingly good. And here is the finished look. I am super into how this whole look turned out. I would have preferred to work with a more stiff fabric like a brocade or something like Anya's was, but honestly I think the looser drape of the knit is also a really cool style and a kind of fun take on her dress. And I honestly wish I had like a Christmas ball to go to or something, because I feel like this outfit would be like appropriate for it. Like I don't know where else I could possibly wear this, but I'm really into it. And like I said, I've also never made like a dress this shape, so it was very different for me, but I think it looked really nice. And the drama of the cape is so fun to play with. And like I mentioned, this is my last video of 2021, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. And thank you so much to all of the followers I got this year. I love you guys all so much. And thanks to everyone who's been around for even longer than that. And I will be taking a little break from YouTube, but I promise I will be back sometime in January. And I am planning to make another video of everything that I made in 2021, like you guys have requested for a while. So I hope that you guys look forward to it, and I will see you guys in 2022. Bye!